Are there any changes to the agenda, assuming everybody's memorized the agenda? Not hearing any. Yeah, I think the first item, and I'm actually gonna go quick check, is to are there any communications or public comments? We don't have anybody outside of ourselves here. Did anybody get an email or anything?
No.
Okay. Do you have anything, Chris, that anybody sent you?
No, I don't have anything.
And neither do I. I had some comment from a constituent about high school, but that's not relevant here. All right. Moving on, since we have no adjustments and no communication, review and approve board minutes. And I'm going to confess to my embarrassment, I have not looked at the board minutes of the last meeting. As I said, I've been a little under the weather. Anybody actually read them? Yeah, Lynn.
I read them. I saw two mistakes. One was Melissa was not listed in the attendance level, but later on she was recorded as having asked questions. So obviously she was there. And then there was on number 7, line 4, it says T-I-N-E, Belissu, that's reference to 4th grade. Should that be a Tina or is it a Tyne?
I'd be willing to bet it's Tina.
Chris, do you recognize the name?
It's Tyne. Christine,
Oh.
but she goes by Tyne.
Tyne, okay.
Well,
Or Teen or Tyne. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a mistake then.
No,
Mike,
but I'll correct the other one that you just shared with us and make
Okay.
sure Melissa's there.
all right, thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome.
all right.
I've got one additional. I think we can move to approve the minutes with corrections. And one additional one is at the very end. There's some other minor ones, Nicole, but I think the final one from me would be to correct Lynn Morgan's name. The very last, toward the end paragraph, I think it says Lynn Morning, which is a lovely name, but it's not our Lynn.
I will correct it.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Unless Lynn wants to go and, get Secretary of State's office, is it? Morning's kind of nice, huh? All right. Thank you. So I have a motion to approve with corrections. Let me take a roll call. Lynn, are you in favor of the corrections?
Good, yes.
All right, Cheryl?
Yes.
And I will be, and okay, so we're there for that. Moving on, as we shall. Finance report. Floor, you're on, and there is some interest in knowing about where we sit relative to whether we have a working surplus going towards the end of the school year, or whether we are flat on the money or even behind. So with that query from negotiations members, you're on.
So surplus wise, we do have the same amount of carryover. As bottom line, which is the funds that you have available right now, we don't have the final number because we haven't closed the year. And teachers are putting in all their expenses, for activities and trying to organize everything that they need before the year ends. And I wouldn't know anything until maybe the middle of July. Right now I was listening, somebody left me a voicemail, some invoices pending, so going with all that, but I wouldn't have a number till maybe mid-July. That is the closest that we could do, taking into consideration the fact that, we had told already principals that they're not supposed to purchase anything that is not a need or emergent, so that way it helps us to close faster, but it will take time. As for revenue, right now, we know already we don't have any extra revenue. We got all payments from all of the towns. So that was a really good thing. I was really excited. So that has cleared and that's been deposited in all the accounts for the schools as well. So I had to say thank you to all of the towns that were really diligent in sending those checks to us on time as well. They had to June 2nd to do it, and we got them by mid-May already.
Not to anticipate Cheryl's question, but I'm going to ask it because if she doesn't, and actually I'm going to ask it now. Here's the thing. We're, as you know, finishing up our pleasantries with the NEA, and we're trying to figure out, we had scheduled, I believe, 1.5% as a contingency on this budget. I think that was the number. And it would be useful for us to know, and it's sounding like I've got a negative answer, whether or not we have a forecastable surplus above and beyond that. With COVID this year, I know it's been a bit of a train wreck, even though we've had some additional grant money. And so the question really is there anything in the kitty that beyond that 1.5% that we have?
So at the moment, I can say yes or no, because right now as well, there are expenses that each of the school has that are COVID-related expenses, and those expenses gets allocated to grants. So we haven't closed the grants either. We're working on that as well. Dr. Carey has been working, throughout the week to set everything and start submitting everything that she needs to submit to close grants. So until we close grants, we know what is approved and we know what we get. I can assure you that you're going to have over at least a 1.5%. You should have your 1.5% because that's what it was budgeted for. But above that, I can't assure until we have ERI grants payments. So we closed a portion of grants the last week of May, which it was last week. And we did submit for 1.5 million for the grants, but submitting that doesn't mean that we got it already. So it's just not only getting the revenue, it's as well allocating that and adjusting those expenses.
All right,
Those are the ESSER 1 grants that we're talking about right now.
Well, I think it's important, even though negotiations are, semi-secret and all that stuff, the reality is that this is material that I think is reasonable to have as part of the public discussion, which is, what's available and what isn't. And it's really sounding like any forecast beyond that, as you had said, Chris, to us, would be speculative and would be risky to make an assumption on. And it sounds like that is what Flora is saying as well. I have to say I'm disappointed because it means that we're a little bit more hogtied than I thought we were going to be. But
I could give you a contingency amount that was set.
No,
if you need that.
We're assuming that the contingency is going to be there, and if it's not there, well, then we're in deficit spending. But if but the question has been, we've had some requests for generosity above and beyond that, given the state of the year, and the question became, well, is that something that's realistic? Many years we have managed to have in the neighborhood of $100,000 ish. In the way of a running surplus, but with COVID this year, that who knows? And it's sounding like we better not be betting on it because it's probably not there, and that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Well, so we did calculations. So like I try to plan ahead for the year because I want to stay away from the fact that some school had to ask for line of credits and all those things. So we did calculations as how much it was going to be an estimate of payroll for the end of the year for each of the districts and how much, balance each of the schools will have, just taking into consideration salaries.
Yep.
So going with that, I have to say that at least for the Union Elementaries, we had at least 3.01 million in their accounts.
Right.
Paying salaries and everything. So
Hold on. I have a 2-year-old granddaughter who likes to call me about this point. Sorry. Anyway, she's going to have to be disappointed for half an hour. So, okay, I'm sorry. I caught you. I lost you at about 3.1 million, and you're starting to explain how that all weighs out.
Yeah, so it's just the fact of, that what you have will be the amount taken into for contingencies and everything. So going with that right now, I would just stick to at least the fact that, you do have the amount to cover your 1.5% for contingency and 2.5 for the previous year. That I do know that you guys do have it.
Yeah. It's
But final numbers, like I said, until we do payouts and close all expenses, I wouldn't have a bottom line.
You're going to have to explain to Cheryl what you meant by the 2.5. That's the rollover that we're counting on for next year. Yeah. And that we're using that as part of the contingency, I believe, for this coming year. Cheryl, I hope, ask your question rather than having me ask it for you.
You just asked my question because I'm kind of, what was the 2.5? If you could speak to that, please.
2.5 is what we had anticipated as a contingency for the negotiations for next year. And 1.5 is what we had, Edie had set aside for this past year. So that's what we mean between 1.5. 1.5 is for this year. 2.5 is for moving forward for next year.
Right, and the origin of that is a rollover, basically. So and that's how we did it, because there was concern about that. And as everybody here knows, but maybe anyone that watches this later doesn't know, is that the mechanism for budgets are you spend your money, and any surplus you may generate is essentially held pending, held by the state, really, pending the audit of the books, and isn't available for the year immediately following, but the year after that. So this 2.5% surplus from what will be it's 2 years ago now, but will be available, or a year ago now, will be available this coming year, and is the money as the source we are using for building contingency, is my understanding.
Yeah, it's not so much a surplus, it's something that we had budgeted for. And,
Right.
and so it's not like
right, but
we expected that. That's one of the things that each we speak to the boards and say, for instance, if we were going to when we start working on the budget for next year, we'll have the conversation with the board. How much do we want to budget as a contingency, and we work it into the budget. So because in the past year, going on 2 years, we haven't negotiated, hasn't worked out, so that money is still there. So it rolls over, and it's, even though it's labeled as surplus, it's still something that we had budgeted for.
Right. And I will tell all you guys and America, if they're curious, that we do have a 6/30 fiscal year ending, and you can't create a debt in 7/1 and be able to pull out a 6/30 money, and that's the reason why we very urged upon our union folks to let's cut this for this year so that we don't lose the money to pay them. We want to pay them any more than they've already earned. All right. For anything else we got beyond that?
Yeah, so contract wise for teachers, we sent out 36 and we got the 36 back. And we have for Westminster, we have 5 resignations, 1 retiring, and then for Grafton, it was 3 resignations.
3 resignations. Is this one that we already knew about?
Yeah, it's nothing new. This is just informing that we're done with the contract for the teachers. We sent out 36 and we got back
Right.
fix
It
the
was,
date.
it was the,
We didn't have any extensions pending or anything.
right, it's the first, was it kindergarten, first grade teacher who's moving to Westminster. Or is that considered resignation or transfer, by the way?
No, those will be transferred. We wouldn't consider that a
Is-
resignation
That's-
because they
so
will
there's
still be part of us.
resignation Apart from that, I don't remember who that was. Is that something we are supposed to know, or?
No, we usually just give the overall numbers for everyone. And right now they're in, everyone's, like Flora said, all contracts that we needed signed, we have them back.
All right. All right, anybody, Wynn or Cheryl, do you have any questions? I don't want to ask you all the questions.
Jack, you
Nothing additional right now. Lynn, go ahead, please. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You had mentioned in the negotiation piece of
Yeah.
336. What does that mean?
Did I mention that?
Maybe I didn't hear it right.
I think Flora was talking about the overall budget, but I don't think she was talking about. I think was it a 3.36 figure or a 3 point something? I don't know. When
Okay, my mistake.
no issues, no issues. So Flora, is that it? That the grand sum total? All right. Well, thank you for
Thank you.
for all of that. Then we're on to item 6, which is old and unfinished business for discussion and action. We have Cheryl. Do you want to take the lead on this? To the extent that there's a lead to be had here.
I can report quickly that with the first item, the State Board of Education and Westminster's withdrawal, the update, we have the Secretary of State has officially warned an election in Westminster for 3 school board members to be held on June 30th. So that's been officially warned. It will happen. Absentee ballots will be available to people. There's a small amount of information in the form of the warning on the Supervisory Union website under the Union Elementary School District area of the website. So if the public wants to go and see that announcement, and there will certainly be additional information about that special election that will be held on June 30th. Following that election, those 3 school board members, and may I say for the public again, that the reason 3 school board members for Westminster's school district are being elected is that's what the State Board of Education told us or asked us to do, to form a board of 3 persons. Westminster would like to return to a 5-person board. So immediately after the election of these 3 persons, then that new board will work with the Wyndham Northeast Union Elementary School Board, that is this board, on the terms of the financial aspects of Westminster's withdrawal from the district, which really, more than anything involves the debt having to do with the building of the gymnasium in Westminster, which remains with Westminster. Let everybody be clear about that. So that those terms would be worked out. And then another election will be held, and that date has been set for August 31st. August 31, at that election, then the voters in the 3 towns, Athens, Grafton, and Westminster, would be asked to vote to approve whatever terms of agreement about the finances have been worked out to propose to the public. And Westminster will also be asking, it will be warned that Westminster is wanting to expand its board to 5 persons, so to elect 2 more. And I believe on the ballot there will be candidates for those 2 additional persons. And again, that election would take place August 31. And then one of the persons who will be elected coming up June 30, those terms are not a full year. They're running from the election in June until town meeting in 2022, 2023, 2024. So we'll have one board person who will be elected June 30, whose term will expire in March of 2022. And so I'm sure at that point there will be an election for that seat. I'm not sure how all the others will play out. I think the point of all of this is that the town of Westminster and this Union Elementary Board and the Supervisory Union are all following the instructions from the State Board of Education about how to properly create this town school board again, which would be a part of the Supervisory Union. The State Board of Education has taken no action, and I believe anticipates no action to have Westminster's status change, that Westminster would continue to be part of the Supervisory Union. And Jack, you'll want to pick up then on the part about Athens and Grafton and this Wyndham Northeast Union Elementary School District. That's the part you can help everybody understand even better.
Maybe. Couple things. Just to pick up on your point, I didn't know, or maybe I did and forgotten about the August 31st vote. This board will have to be co-warn that meeting. So we will need to have a warning done and, wrapped up on July, on or before July 21st, which may mean that we will, so our normal meeting in July is, I think after that, we may have to have a brief meeting, that so-called first meeting of the month. We may have to use that and dedicate it to that proposition. At that point, we will need to have had we need to have gotten all of our ducks in a row in terms of negotiating out the money. We all think we know what it is, making sure that we have something in there about transferring the deed. We're going to need to work out if there are any issues on this meeting about if the meeting that's happening on 6:30 includes any of our incumbent members. Looking at you, Cheryl, are you if you are on? We will need to figure out how that works, because John Carroll sent me a note that he hoped that we weren't going to have members on both boards simultaneously, and I haven't answered that because I didn't know if I wanted to. But we'll have to look at how that gets dealt with, or if it needs to get dealt with. I will suggest to Lynn and Ginger when she's available, and Jessa when she's available, that we may want to consider whether we're going to include changing the number of persons on the board prior to March town meeting, or if we want to not do that. We are going to have something that allows for a 4-person board when the withdrawal is effective. We will be a 6-person board with Westminster members until March of this next year. So people need to know that that's how we're going to operate. We still have legal authority for the district as it's constituted until March town meeting, I think. Because I don't.
I think it's July, Jack. I think it would be.
Well, I know that they don't have. That there's some legal authority they don't have because the turnover is effective in March, I believe. You and I will check on that.
Okay.
My preference would be to finesse the issue and do what we did back when we were still fighting the consolidation, which is to have everybody meet jointly and hopefully operate by consensus and deal with it that way. But when I talked to Donna Russo Savage, she suggested that there was some ambiguity there, and whatever ambiguity is there, we want to respond with our own ambiguity and make sure that we cover the issue so that everybody's comfortable.
Jack, I can add, you just asked the question, there are candidates for each of the 3 terms, the 3 board members to be elected. I'm on the ballot to run for the 3-year term, or the one until March of 2024. Charlie Hutchison, who has been an advisor, appointed by, actually voted by the townspeople of Westminster to be a member of the Town Advisory Committee, is running for the 2-year position, and David Major is running for the 1-year position to take us up until March of 2022.
All right.
On advice of council, I would be the only one currently serving on this board, now elected, if I am elected, to the Westminster Town School Board. If I'm elected, I would resign from this board. And I believe, and Chris can help with this as always, but I believe it would be this board then on behalf of all 3 towns, because we all represent the children in all 3 towns. We don't represent our towns on this union school board, but there would need to be an appointment of a replacement for me to this board. Melissa would fill out her term.
Oh, I will say that replacing you is not possible, but that's a personal view as opposed to a legal statement. All right, when we get to that point, I will be looking for somebody, quite candidly, even though, again, you said that we do as we like with that because it is a representative of the district. I would strongly prefer to have somebody who's interested in school board governance from Westminster would be strongly encouraged to apply. I'm going to, if need be, we're going to put out handbills on the town square for that. So there you go. All right, thank you, Cheryl. This was, disappointing news at one level, but understandable otherwise. So there you go. Any questions from Wynn, or actually from Chris for that matter, because this is maybe some news to them. Well, with that, let's see, negotiations. We will talk about this briefly in an executive session on 6B Policy Committee. I had originally anticipated that the SU was going to take a first vote on one new policy and an amendment, but they were not able to do that the last time. So I'm going to advise we pass over that item and go on to negotiations and ask Chris if he would put us into executive session via his digital magic.
Yep. Just give me 1 second.
All right.
Okay, I think they're in. Just wait one more second. Yep, they're in.
Okay, excellent. We are now out of executive session at 6:43 this evening. And I'm going to make a motion. And that is, the motion is that the board of the Wyndham Northeast Unified Elementary School District approves in principle that a side agreement to provide additional compensation to teachers and paraprofessionals working in the 2021 school year and who are continuing their service in the coming year, providing that an agreement on this point can take place on or before June 30th of this year. Is there any additional clarification? Cheryl, yes.
No, I'm just going to second the motion, not that you need it, but
And Chris, you had made a point in our session that we need to make in public on this.
Yeah, it's just so the public's aware is that if and when the two sides agree on a monetary amount for the side agreement, that it will be coming back to the board, this board, for approval of that monetary amount if a side agreement is made. This is just a motion to give members of this board who are in the negotiation committee the opportunity to continue to move forward with trying to come up with an amount for a side agreement for all the hard work that teachers and paras have put forth this school year of 2021.
And it should be noted that we have not noted in this this resolution a dollar figure or any of that at this point. That would be subject to approval of this board when it comes back to us, assuming that we get it back to us. All right. Any further discussion? Then I'll do a quick roll call. Lynn, what say ye?
Yes.
Cheryl?
yes.
All right, then we have unanimity on this, and I will give this to Nicole here momentarily. And with that, do we have any other business before this august body? No new business. We don't have policies. Director's comments would be this for the time for this. Cheryl?
Nothing more from me tonight. Thank you very much.
Wynn?
Nothing more from me. Thank you very much.
All right, and I'm going to hold my peace for once. See you all in graduation. So look forward to you then. Talk to you soon. Bye all.
Thank you.